And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. Former President Donald Trump is promising to fight his way back onto the primary ballot in Colorado. The state Supreme Court disqualified him, citing the insurrection section of the 14th Amendment, Section 3. This is the first time a candidate has been disqualified for this reason. The High Court says its decision is based on the former president's role in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Joining us to talk about it, attorney Eric Dick and University of Houston downtown professor Dr. Dietrich von Biedenfeld.
It feels just kind of like it's a destabilization of our really democracy, to be honest. It's kind of, if you're following the position that Donald Trump's taking, that it's election interference and all these things are going to kind of prevent him from getting elected. It helps. I think it's going to help him. I think it's now more people see that, you know, he's not just some wackadoodle making this up. You have another state, or you have a state that says, no, you can't even vote for him. You have polling data. Then this isn't from some, from reliable sources saying that Trump's up, at minimum tied, more likely than not above Biden. So it kind of runs into his rhetoric, it's kind of dangerous rhetoric of saying, hey, this is election interference. Since Biden can't win, what he's doing is he's fixing the election where you don't even get the chance to vote from Donald Trump. I don't think this is good for our society. I think it's probably really bad for society. My hopes are that the U.S. Supreme Court changes this, because I don't think it's good.
All right, Dr. von Biedenfeld, your thoughts on this. Do you think this is one of the wheels in Joe Biden's attempt to stop Donald Trump, or do you think the courts made this decision and their ruling as it is stands?
Well, we know that the composition, particularly the 10th Circuit in Colorado, is primarily liberal. One of the aspects that we weren't overly concerned with is the reality that Minnesota, which then is now going to allow Trump on the ballot, Michigan, Biden won that slightly, and Colorado were not states that former President Trump were really going to have to spend time and money in, because they're Democratic-leaning states. And the composition of those courts is predominantly dominated by Obama appointees and equal with Trump and Biden appointees. So it's not unsurprising, and I think this isn't necessarily a concerted effort by the Biden campaign as much as the courts showing a liberal leaning. But I do agree with Eric that, we don't want to become Pakistan, where we see a continuation of the military placing people in power because the public completely mistrusts the political and democratic republic apparatus, where you just say, you know what, the courts have a political bias, the legislature has a political bias, we'll just let the military decide who is going to be our leader. So I do think it does threaten democracy when state courts are trying to make federal rulings on what the 14th Amendment means, when the Supreme Court itself hasn't really established fully what an officer of the country is. Many experts say that the president is not included in that constitutional insurrection aspect that the court cited. They were clever enough to include a Gorsuch opinion reference in the Colorado State Supreme Court's ruling. So when it goes to the Supreme Court, Gorsuch is going to have to say what he meant back in 2012 isn't what he meant today. And so that's going to be an interesting dance for him on a legal standpoint and precedent base. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's a Biden campaign thing. I think it's a liberal bias, so in the courts.
Now, do we think, is it possible for Donald Trump to win the presidency again if, let's say, Colorado is the only state that won't allow him to run for re-election? Could he still win with those pieces on the board?
Absolutely.
Easily. Yeah. I don't think that's good for Colorado, because now it's basically they didn't even participate. They didn't even vote for the person that gets in. I don't think it's not good for our society. Even if they vote against him, they should at least have him on the ballot to tell him no. It doesn't look good. It's bad optics, bad for the people in Colorado. If they want to refute him, they should at least have the option to refute him.
And of course, we've never seen anything like this. And we've been saying that a lot lately, Dr. von Biedenfeld. We've never seen anything like this.
Unprecedented is the word of the decade. So we're going to see a lot more unprecedented decisions, a lot more unprecedented actions, and they're going to become precedented.
And how many more states are looking at this option of pulling him off the ballot really quick as we wrap up here?
Well, we've got 2 in process, but at the end of the day, once there's blood in the water, the sharks will come. So you're going to see a number of entities using this decision, this ruling, to levy lawsuits in other states to try to remove him.
All right. Go ahead, Derek.
And the problem you're going to have with that is they're going to have to be more liberal-leaning courts. It's going to have to be a majority, more than a majority, like almost all liberal-leaning. Because even here, you just had a slim margin in the liberal side that agreed with this.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored.